What's happening, people? Welcome back to In the End Zone UK. This is podcast number 5. I'm your host, Dom, and again, not sitting across the table from me, but coming to us live from an army camp in Blackpool. Welcome back to Big Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Yeah, I'm good. How's things? How's things your side?
Yeah, it's been a busy day. I've been sat in front of the screen all day just to sit in front of it for a bit longer, but at least now I get to talk about football, which is something that I can enjoy. Um, I'm hoping that we're going to give the listeners a bit of a rare occasion today because me and you should both be very, very happy. And I don't think it's going to come around very often.
No, definitely not. Well, yeah, we're going to get on to why we're happy and why it's a very rare occasion that we're going to be.
Indeed. Giggling like school kids because our teams may have won this week, which is amazing. So the happy version of Dom and Dave is coming to you right now. We're going to obviously go through a number of segments today. On the clock segment to look back at all the teams that played this week. We're going to play Slap or Sign, and we're going to talk about some of the Sky Sports games that are coming to us in the near future. But first, there's been some breaking news in the NFL, and Dave, I want to get your opinion on it. So when I first looked this morning, or this afternoon rather, Stefan Gilmore, the superstar cornerback, sorry, from the New England Patriots, 2 years removed from Defensive Player of the Year, was about to be released by the Patriots. Then he was traded for a 6th round pick in 2 years' time. What's happening there?
No idea. Stefan Gilmore is an absolute tank of a cornerback. I know he's on the pup list at the minute, which
That's
means
the
he's not
physically
available.
unable to perform, is it? Pup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's he's on that, and I know he's not available till week 6 or week 7, but I think he was in the last year of his contract as well, wasn't he? But to trade him for a 6th round pick, it's madness. It's the DeAndre Hopkins thing all over again, isn't it? And Gronk as well. They traded Gronk away for a 6th or 7th round pick.
Yeah.
They must not have like a WhatsApp group with all the GMs on going. Oh, let's get Stefan Gilmore gone. Let's get a bidding war going. They just go, yeah, 6th round pick. Not this year. No, 2023.
Yeah. It's
A
absolute
sixth a
madness.
6th round pick. I'm worth a 6th. So I
I was going
wouldn't
to.
be upset if I wouldn't be upset if a team was giving like a late first or a 2nd round pick for him. He's not old. Well, he's not that old. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
would
just
have
been a
I would have
weird
said
day.
if he was going to hit the market at the beginning of the year, I'd have said I'd have said a 2nd round pick for Gilmore just because of his age. I mean, but at the same time, you know, he's 2 years removed from Defensive Player of the Year. That
Yeah,
means the best defensive player in the entire NFL, and
as a corner.
he's just gone for a 6th round pick, which
Yeah.
is absolutely nuts. Like you say, I can't understand how there wasn't so many teams throwing in 4ths, 3rds, maybe 2nds. I mean, come on, the
Yeah.
Seahawks are in dire need of a cornerback, and I can't just be the only one saying that. The Packers are basically an immediate potential Super Bowl team with him on the other side to Jair Alexander. Imagine the Rams giving a 4th round pick and having him and Jalen Ramsey on either side of the pitch. That immediately makes them like an absolute dominant team. I was going to talk to you and say, where's his best landing spot? But unfortunately, I know we haven't covered it yet, but he's going to the Carolina Panthers, which, you know, off the back of their current performance looks like a good move, but it is not. They're not going to be
Uh,
competitive. They're not going to be competitive for another 2-3 years. And with him, I feel like it's just a waste of his like twilight years of his career, really, personally.
I would have. Well, I think I text you straight away saying that he's already going to be on the books because
Yeah, yeah.
the team, the reigning Super Bowl champions, they've lost pretty much their entire secondary. They've picked up Richard Sherman, who's an older, less good version of Gilmore.
Yeah, yeah. He's like a
So,
he's like a Sherman 2.0, isn't he?
yeah. So I just and and just send him to the Panthers of all teams. I just think just seems a strange move. I mean, we're not GMs, obviously, but
No,
unless
I mean
there's some underlying injury there,
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, is he maybe lost a step that they're very much aware of? But also, one thing I do know is you are right. He was in the last year of his contract, which means, irrespective of where he goes, he's going to want paying big money, whether it be astronomical money. I don't know, but he's definitely still going to want to be paid big money. The Panthers have got loads of cap room next year, so I feel like maybe they're just sort of hedging their bets and saying, well, if he turns out to be amazing, we can pay him and we've got the money to. Whereas you've got teams like the Packers, for example, which I thought was a really good landing spot for him, who are in desperate need for funds in terms of the salary cap. They've got no chance of paying anybody big money. They've got to secure, Rodgers again, Devontae Adams. So they won't be looking at people like a 33 or 32-year-old cornerback. But irrespective, I think there's many teams out there that could have benefited from him. The Bucs being one, of course. The Seahawks being another. We don't have one good corner. Never mind like anything else. Just putting him in the team would have made a slight difference. So it was an interesting one, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, go and enjoy your time in Carolina. You ain't winning no other ring.
no, not there. He could have gone He could have gone to any of the contenders.
Chiefs.
Yeah, any of the contenders as a starting corner. But hey, well, I mean, it's the second news, isn't it, today? Because
yeah, Jalen Smith was the first one.
Yeah,
which was a surprise cut by the Dallas Cowboys. So linebacker Jalen Smith cut by the Cowboys. Again, probably 2 years removed from being absolutely a top 10 linebacker.
yeah, he's 25 years old.
Yeah, yeah. So he's
25. They owe him £7.5 million or something like that.
right. So they're going to be paying his salary whilst he plays somewhere else then.
Yeah,
Right.
and I know where he should go.
Giants.
Team that's just lost a linebacker.
Yeah.
And who may also have as the offensive coordinator his former coach.
Right. Is that your secret pick?
Well, that's what I think he's going to go, but we'll see.
I actually thought about the Giants immediately when he was cut, because I was thinking, yeah, Martinez is gone. He's not a like for like. Well, I suppose he is positionally, but I think he's probably, he's got some spring in his step. He's a bit younger than Blake. I don't think he's better than Blake, but it's definitely a good position to slot in. So
he had 150 tackles last year. Second in the league in tackles. Yeah,
what?
Yeah, second in the league.
Smith.
Yeah.
Oh man,
he was a Pro Bowler the year before that.
Yeah, and I've always known he was good. He's good on Madden as well. But no,
I'll get his numbers. Hold on.
Yeah, I thought he would end up in. Well, I thought he'd stay with the Cowboys, but the way that they drafted this year was questionable. Taking, was it Micah Parsons?
Yeah. So that's his replacement. They replaced him with him.
Yeah. So that's weird in itself. But I mean, there's a load of teams that need a middle linebacker. Loads of teams need a middle linebacker. Again, the Packers definitely need a middle linebacker. The Chiefs definitely need a middle linebacker. I'm only throwing the teams out there that are contenders, basically. I mean, there's loads that need it, but any one of those teams could take him, and he could be a very strong addition on defense, I think. Yeah, it's quite shocking that they've just let him go and that they're still paying him. Do you reckon there's anything untoward in there, like underlying issues that might come to light, or do you reckon they just think, nah, he's not worth keeping about?
I don't know. Maybe like why'd you cut somebody? And I know that they're trying to save salary cap on next year, so they can make other signings or possibly sign some people this year. I don't know, but you're paying him to play for another team. That's what I don't understand. I think if he goes to someone in the NFC East, that's going to bite you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
because they're obviously they can throw the ball, but with that offensive line, you're built to run. And I don't know. I just think it's savage. Yeah, 152 tackles last year, total tackles that is.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's a big stat line, that is. So we'll see where he ends up, but I can't imagine, unless, like I said, unless there is some problem that people don't know about, I can't imagine that he's going to be sat on the bench for long waiting to go
No.
somewhere. I think somewhere's going to snap him up, and yeah, Giants, Chiefs, Packers, any one of those, I think would be a good pick. Be a nice one to see him in the NFC East, still just terrorizing the team that's cut him. That'd be quite
Yeah.
nice. So that is some of the breaking news that came through today. We are going to go into our returning segment, constantly returning because we love slapping people. We're going to go into slap or sign. So, can you give me, Dave, 2 people from the AFC East? One that you'd love to slap and one that you'd love to sign.
From the AFC?
Yeah.
I am going to, when he was at the Patriots, I would have signed Stefan Gilmore.
Right.
However, he's got a new team. So yeah, no, I think Gilmore would have been a great addition to our team, to the Giants.
Yeah.
We've got 2 good corners, but Gilmore, wherever he goes, he slots in as the number 1, doesn't he? So
yeah, 100%.
And slap, I'm going to slap Jacoby Brissett because he is awful.
Mm-hmm.
He is an awful quarterback. He's not a starter. He's in that weird position where, well, he's probably not. I think before the season started, you probably would say he's maybe too good to be a backup, but he's not good enough to be a starter. I think now he's definitely shit enough to be a backup.
Oh yeah, at best. I mean, he's looked woeful.
Yeah, I don't know. He just doesn't seem. What are they doing there? You know, I don't think they've got anything what they thought they would have with Tua.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got him back. It's just not worked out. I don't think
He
very well.
can't push the ball downfield, and when he scrambles, which is seemingly his best asset, he makes it look so difficult. Like he really does. He can't. He's not quick. He's more athletic than some, but he's not quick, and he takes big hits. There was one in that game where he dove forward, got landed on as he should have been, got up like it was in massive amounts of pain, and it was to gain like 2 yards. And it's like, if that's what
Yeah,
your backup quarterback is doing, you're in a lot of trouble. And yeah, he's looked terrible for weeks.
yeah. He's just not the dude, is he?
No.
But hey ho.
Indeed. So a slap for Jacoby Brissett and a sign for Stefan Gilmore, who's unfortunately more recently gone to the Carolina Panthers. Both deserved, I think. NFC. Can you slap somebody from the NFC and can you sign somebody from the NFC?
I am going to slap 2 people, but one I'm going to go on a bit of a rant about.
All right, let's go for it.
Okay, so the first person I'm going to slap is Deshaun Watson, who isn't playing at the minute. I mean, I've got absolutely no love for the Texans, but they are a dumpster fire without him. Like he's single-handedly winning them games when he was playing last year. The team wasn't even good last year, and he was still winning them games.
Yeah.
But to be that much of a douche and put your team in a predicament where first you say you don't want to play, and then all these accusations come out about you, they're just awful. And I think I don't know. I would have loved at the start of the year to say I would have loved him at the Giants because I didn't know what we had with Daniel Jones. But he's just put his team in such a predicament, and I think it's so selfish that when you're a superstar athlete, you get drafted by this team, they pump all this money into you, and you're just an absolute belter of a person. Like I think.
Yeah, I mean he was paid a mega contract, wasn't he? He was paid big money, and then it's now become so evident that he was essentially the entire driving force for the Texans. I mean, they were shut out this week, and like you say, he's made some questionable decisions in his personal life, but not only that, he's also carrying them into football by spitting his dummy out, saying he doesn't want to play for a rattler of a team. But ultimately, look at all the quarterbacks that do and have to play for a shithouse of a team, and they end up turning it around. I think he just felt like he was too big for his boots too early. I deserve to be playing somewhere better. Well, why not stick there and try and make the team better yourself?
Yeah, and like sometimes not everybody can win.
Mm.
Not everyone can win loads of Super Bowl. Like only one team can win a Super Bowl every year. And if you're a quarterback in your career, I mean, the average career length in the NFL is what, 4 or 5 years. NFL for a good quarterback, like a good starting quarterback, he's probably going to play for 15, 16 years. Some players don't even win Super Bowls. Aaron Rodgers has won one.
Yeah,
Not everyone's Tom Brady.
yeah. Mm.
Charles Barkley, the basketball player, never won. Like he's a great basketball player, never won a title.
Mhm.
In a sport where a superstar can get you there, but no, I don't know. Like you've got to. Sometimes you just got to suck it up, get on with it, and then I know the team's trading away all the best players there, but he's I just think he deserves a slap because he's an absolute knob. So that's who I'm gonna
Fair
slap.
play.
That's one of the people I'm gonna slap. I'm gonna come
Okay.
on to somebody else in a minute. I think you probably feel the same way about this individual.
All right.
And sign. I'm gonna sign Jalen Smith.
Okay. That's a
Um,
nice one. That's a nice touch, Dave. See what you did there.
it's fell nicely into my lap on it, that one. Yeah, no, look, we need a linebacker. We need a middle linebacker who's experienced, who's a tackling machine. We've just lost ours. It's almost a light for light fit. Like you say, I don't think he's as good as mentally Blake Martinez, but he could definitely be the play caller
Hmm.
for that defense. So I would love to pick him up. And not only that, he's not going to cost anything because the Cowboys are still paying him loads of money.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a really good shout. It's a really good shout.
They're not.
And
Go on.
yeah, now I was going to ask you who your bonus slap was to.
Oh, my bonus slap is Taysom Hill.
Oh, yes,
This
definitely.
turd of a human. That so for people,
Is it partly because he did bits against the Giants for a,
yeah,
for a
but
portion of the game?
he's. I mean, ultimately we won, but and I'm gonna probably go back into this when we talk about the games. But he what is he?
He's
He's
a
not good
nightmare. That's
enough
what
to
he
be a
is.
quarterback. He's not good enough to be a running back, and he's certainly not good enough to be a tight end. So what is he?
He's none. He's none of each, but being
Yeah,
paid more than any
yeah.
of them.
So that's literally what I want to let people in. If people don't know, Taysom Hill is the backup. He's like a gadget player that they play in the New Orleans Saints. Okay, his contract is 4 years, $140 million. That is starting. That's what, 30 million. That's 35 million a season for a backup shit quarterback.
35 mil. That's so at the
It
moment.
must be. Well, it must be. It's 4 years, 140 million. It's 35
Yeah,
million a year.
split it up. If it is 35 million a year, he's being paid more at the moment yearly than Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and that what he's and just to put it into perspective of how much better Jameis Winston is than him. Jameis Winston threw. I mean, Jameis Winston has got a big arm, but he threw. So it was the same play, pretty much 2 plays apart. It was a downfield play which got brought back for a holding call. So Jameis Winston threw it on a dime. Saints player caught it in the end zone, would have been a touchdown. Gets pulled back for a penalty. They play another play, and then in the very next play, Taysom Hill's on, tries the exact same play that James Winston threw, underthrew the player, and it was picked off by James Bradbury. I loved it, every second of it. But it just proves to you he is a turd in a white uniform. Like he's just not great. He's not
No,
good. He's he's
no.
he's stealing a wage. It offends me because he's stealing money.
Yeah, if I was on the Saints team, I would be livid. Every time he stepped out onto the pitch, I'd be thinking he comes on and probably takes what, 10 snaps a game,
Yeah.
maybe at best. 10 snaps a game. You know exactly what he's going to do with it. Of those 10 snaps, he's going to run 8. He's going to play action 2 and throw a pass that doesn't even get past the line of scrimmage, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he scored 2 touchdowns, which infuriates me even more because we were sat there saying it that all
Yeah.
he's doing He's doing a QB draw. Well, I mean, do you class it as wildcat because he's a
He's in a
quarterback?
wildcat, isn't he? It's not even
Yeah,
a draw. He's just stood there waiting for the snap.
and then just runs forward, and we couldn't stop it twice.
Yeah.
But the whole team tried to
It was a
tackle him.
bit poor on defense, but you just basically he just made himself look a bit good or a bit better than he is in that scenario. But he's just a normal bloke.
Mm.
He's built average
Yeah,
to better.
yeah.
I think
He's
both of us
probably
could have him.
he's probably 240. He's probably a big dude, but I just think, and I think you're absolutely right. There's got to be players in that locker room who are grinders that put the effort in play, and they're not getting paid a tenth of what this youth's getting
Yeah,
paid.
100%. So Taysom Hill gets a slap,
He
and
doesn't get a slap. He gets a full on like steel chair. He does like steel chair.
what about if we're both going to slap him? We could give him the Dudley. What was it called? The Dudley drop or whatever it
The
was.
3D.
Oh, the 3D. That's it.
Yeah,
Give him a 3D straight for a table. I
yeah.
reckon. So there
Why
you go,
not?
Taysom Hill. If you're listening to that, next time me and Dave see you, we're going to give you a 3D.
You not.
And nick all your millions.
Mm.
Cool.
Who
That's
you
yours
got?
then.
Yep. Who you got?
On me for slap or sign, I am going with from the NFC. I'm going to sign Trayvon Diggs.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know he's a rookie and he's just come into the league, second round pick, but the man has had 5 interceptions in 4 games.
He's very good.
We need a corner at the Seahawks, which is why I was clambering for this news when the Patriots released Stefan Gilmore. But ideally, we need a young corner that we can build things around. Trayvon Diggs, he's looked very good for the Cowboys, and it does hurt me a little bit to say any Cowboys players look good. I'd rather them be better on defense than offense, because at least it's not Dak getting all the praise. But he looks like a very instinctive player. If a ball comes his way, he's going to catch it. Definitely worth a sign, and fair play to the Cowboys for managing to pick up what looks like to be the best corner out of the draft so far, or one of, maybe not the best, but one of, in the second round. So good on them. So I'll be signing Trayvon Diggs. Who I'm going to slap actually comes from in my conference, and we played him this week. I'm going to slap Deebo Samuel. The reason why I'm going to slap Deebo Samuel is because I feel like this season he's kind of had his stats padded, as opposed to him actually being good. Like, he's a good player. He's an average player, but he is second in receiving yards or something like that. He's not that good. He's not. He's just not. He's had a couple of blown coverages where he's taken the top off. It's not like he's beating players on pure merit like Tyreek Hill does or anything like that. He's just broken some coverages, defensive breakdowns. The one he had with us, it was a Trey Lance 70-yard or 60-yard pass, but there was nobody in the backfield. It was a total busted coverage. And, it ends up making him have 150 yards for the game, which makes him look like he's Superman, but he's not. So I want him to come down to earth hard. He's not got the quarterbacks that are going to be launching yards after yards after yards. So I think it's just an early season thing. I just don't like him. I just don't like Deebo Samuel. I think he gets way too much credit for not being great. So, and he annoyed me against the Seahawks, because without that play, we would have held the Niners to a pretty bad scoreline and a pretty bad yardage. So, yeah, Deebo Samuel's catching a slap. In the AFC, I am going to slap the entire Titans defense, just every single one of them, all 11, just big old slaps in a line. They lost to the Jets. I mean, if that's not saying enough, they've got some good players on that defense. They shouldn't be losing to an offense that is as dismal as the Jets, because it really is. As much as there were some flashes of brilliance, so to speak, generally the Titans let themselves down. You can't be losing games like that. If you think you're a playoff team, you don't lose to the Jets.
No, they should have steamrolled. I don't care if Julio Jones is out, if AJ Brown is out. I don't care. You've got the best running back in the league. You should have been able to just run the ball on them, drain the clock out, I mean, obviously the Jets put 27 points up, so that they put points on him. But like you say, there's no excuse for losing to the Jets.
No,
That's
the
tough.
Titans have got good players on defense, in positional players. You know, they've got a good pair of safeties. They should be doing better than that. So if they didn't get a slap when they walked into the locker room, they absolutely should have. So that's where mine comes from. And then this is a bit of an obvious one. I was kind of struggling with AFC players to sign this week, but I'm gonna just go with the fact that he just had a game where he just looked uncoverable on again, and it's Tyreek Hill. His pace. This is the difference. You've got Debo Samuel, who is like, oh, he runs a 4.32. Okay, fine, but you never see that on the field. Really, you don't see it every play. You know, it'll bust a coverage. Tyreek Hill, you see his pace, whether he's running a 5 yard slant or whether he's going 60 yards down the pitch. His pace is electric, and it makes Mahomes look fantastic. It really does. But a lot of it comes down to Tyreek. He had some slants in that game, where he's just uncoverable. You couldn't be close enough to him. He still gets separation, and I think because he's small and he's a little bit bowling ballish, must just be a nightmare to throw against. And I can't imagine having that kind of a weapon in your team. You know, he can take end arounds and jet sweeps and bust for what looks like a broken play, which might go for -4, ends up being even at least 10-12 yards because he's so fast. So yeah, Tyreek Hill. I know I'm absolutely buzzing off him, but I'd take him this week. He looked amazing.
Yeah, no, he's got that. He's got that. Some players have it, some players don't have it. I mean, I don't mind Debo Samuel, but I mean, until I knew who he was, but
Mm.
you are right. He's at the minute he's getting these yards, but the Jamal Adams one, do you know what I mean? Like that was a busted coverage for them, but it can
Yeah,
make it look like he's had an amazing game on. If you look at the stat sheet,
yeah,
but Tyreek Hill, he's electric on every play. So a short little dump off, his acceleration is so quick, and that's what you need. A few teams have got them players where they are so difficult to cover because they're so fast. They can get to top end speed so quickly, rather than a bigger bloke has to like put work in to get there. You know,
mm.
he's quick straight off the mark. He's got his acceleration's unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's who I'd take if I could sign Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, like it, love it.
Good stuff.
Well, I don't love it because I hate the Chiefs, but
Yeah, I can't
spoiled
help
team.
myself with the Chiefs. I can't help myself. But so yeah, so that was slap or sign. We're now going to move in to our main segment on the clock, where we talk about every game played in the NFL last week, and we're going to start with the first game that was played last week, which was played on the Thursday night. Keep me honest, there was it on the Thursday night, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah, played.
Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals Jaguars. So
Yep.
the Jaguars played the Bengals at the Bengals, and this one was a pretty tight affair, to be honest. It was tighter than I thought it was going to be. The Jaguars lost. Sorry, I nearly said won. Then they can only wish. The Jaguars lost 21-24. Jaguars go to 0-4 in their division, and the Bengals go to 3-1.
Yeah.
How did that one
Uh,
go?
it was good. I think it was a good. It was for once. Finally, Trevor Lawrence looked like he should have been drafted number 1. He was clean with the ball. Didn't throw any touchdowns, but he looked. He rushed for a touchdown, but they've got that. Robinson's amazing. Like he's handed him the ball off, and he does the rest. The one position they didn't need to draft as a running back, they drafted a running back, but they didn't need to. Um, yeah, it was. I thought it was quite a good game, to be honest. I'm not a particular fan of the Bengals or the Jags, but no, it was a fairly steady watch. It was
Yeah,
it was
no,
I think you're going to see these two quarterbacks in the next 10, 15 years. Like Joe Burrow is the real deal. Um, he's just got that. He's got that Bengals team humming.
yeah, yes, and I don't really enjoy either of these teams either, but they put on a little bit of a show Joe Burrow threw 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. He genuinely does look like the real deal, like you said, Dave. He definitely is an NFL quarterback, and you can see that he's just got composure. He throws nice balls. Sounds a bit weird, but he throws nice balls,
Yeah, he
and
does.
yeah, he does. And Trevor Lawrence, like you say, he didn't throw a touchdown, but he was safe, and that allowed the Jaguars to stay with the Bengals.
Yeah,
They were actually winning to start the game, but what I meant was that just meant that the mistakes that he's made in other games where he's thrown silly picks, it meant that his team stays in it, right? So as much as he didn't throw one, like you say, ran for a touchdown, and Robinson had two. So yeah, it was a nicely matched game, but the better team, I think, did win in the end. It's a shame that it's put the Jaguars at 0-4, but that's just what you're going to have to do when you have the first pick of the draft last year and you sign one player. One player is not going to change your team as much as a quarterback can do that.
yeah,
It's not going to do it, is it? So, but it was a good game either way. Tyler Boyd had 120 yards for the Bengals. He's a quietly good receiver.
yeah. The Jamar Chase, they're just the Bengals seem to have. I mean, I do think their record. They played some pump teams, so
Yeah,
that the record's going to even out over the course of a full season. The Jags, they're probably going to be picking in the top three, aren't they, again this year? But
yeah.
that's what they need, you know. When you've got a young quarterback, you've got young running backs, you've got a young O line.
It's the time to build, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, they're in rebuild mode. I mean, they're probably going to be looking for a new coach if
Yeah.
Pervy Urban Meyer gets sacked. But hey, I mean,
Urban Meyer, the big man.
if we were getting the attention, we'd all be doing it.
Yeah. Cool. And on that note, we'll move on to what was slated as one of the bigger games of the week, albeit on paper it wasn't really a big game, but it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the New England Patriots at the Patriots house at Gillette Stadium. This one didn't go the way I expected it overall, but still finished with the winners that I thought would win, and that was the Buccaneers beating the Patriots 19-17. Explain how it was so close there, then, Dave.
Well, I think again the stat line probably doesn't tell the story of the game because Antonio Brown had two big drops that could have easily gone for football. One was in the end zone. So I think they could have easily added another 14 points on for the Bucs, but the Patriots there was a lot of obviously a lot of emotion going into the game with Brady returning to New England for the first time. He was gonna break the passing record, which he did do in the game. And not only that, you've got to remember that Bill Belichick is a very good coach. He knows everything that Tom Brady's going to do because he's seen it for the last 20 odd years. So I think the defense came ready to play. Matt Judon had a great game.
Yeah, he looked electric.
He's a force coming off the edge. But not to put it all on the. I mean, the Bucs have got no secondary either, so that's probably why it's a little bit closer. But Mac Jones had a good game. You know, very efficient with the ball. One turnover, two touchdowns,
I was impressed by
275
Mac
yards.
Jones. I was
Yeah,
really impressed by him.
yeah,
Genuinely, he,
he
he
looked good.
looked like, yeah, he looked like I wouldn't say he looked like he was, a veteran quarterback. He definitely didn't look like that. The plays that they were calling were very safe, but he executed, and that's all they could ask of him. He executed the passes quite nicely. He drove them downfield, threw a couple of touchdowns. That's hard to do against the Bucs team. Well, at least the Bucs front seven. They don't have a secondary, like you say. It's absolute trash, and that's because it's partly in ribbons because of injuries, but they brought Richard Sherman in and he got burnt all over the place, which was quite funny to see. But he'd barely even touched a football, I think, in the off season. So I think he was just coming in and playing on mainly instinct, which, when he's not on my team, I don't give a shit. So I'd love to see him get burnt. But I thought the Patriots actually played pretty well, considering I thought they were going to get the doors blown off. I thought Brady was going to come in and just be, laser beams everywhere, and they'd have no answer. But they schemed really well against him, and it looked like they made it really hard for him to actually play the game that he wanted to play.
Yeah, and you've got to think that they were getting pressure on him, which obviously changes how the quarterbacks react. The Patriots actually rushed for -1 yard, so they didn't
Yeah,
get any, they had a negative rushing yards. Um,
they didn't rush many times though. Must have been
no, no,
10
no.
max.
I
Yeah,
think they were trying to take advantage of the fact that their secondary was. But like I say, a team like the Bucks, sometimes if you need to just go head to head with them, don't you? You need to go toe to toe and just sling the ball. Yeah, it's just it's a weird one. I think games like this where you often expect good teams to destroy bad teams, but
yeah,
it took the Bucks 6 or 7 games last year to get into form. So I think it'll
yeah,
be the same as this. And we said before, didn't we, that Gronk's out now.
yeah.
JPP, so they're a different defense when JPP's not playing because you've not got
Right.
Shaq and JPP coming off both sides, and they're generating pressure on every single play. Because if it's not coming, because if you're double teaming them, you're then leaving a Dominican Sue and who's the
Vita
other
Vea.
Vita Vea,
Mm.
who can just plow straight through the middle
Yeah,
and just you can put the quarterbacks off by doing that. But when you've got one less of them to worry about, they're exposed at the back with the corners. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, they don't care. Tom Brady don't care. He's not
No,
bothered.
he done. He done. It was good to see him back in Foxborough, and it was nice that he broke the all-time passing yard record there. It's a weird one. You can't really write it, can you? That he would break that all-time record playing against his old team. It now
Yeah,
makes him, I think, one of the only 3 players now to have beaten every team in the NFL. I think him, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees have now beaten 32 teams in the NFL because they've managed to play against the team that they previously played for. So it was a lot of good vibes. The hug between him and Belichick at the end of the game, I think a lot of people have been reading into that, seen it on Twitter. That he, Belichick came over and gave him a quick sniff and then did one. But they probably talk all the time, don't you think? They probably like
yeah. Well, he was caught afterwards. Belichick, this was caught afterwards going into the Bucks locker room, and he had a private meeting with Brady for 20 minutes.
Oh,
But
there you go then.
it's just headlines in it. People just
Yeah,
clickbait stuff, put it out there so you can get stuff shared.
yeah,
There's no way you don't play for somebody for 20 years. You don't be managed by somebody for 20 years if you don't like them.
no,
It's just that just not when you're a superstar player and you've got so many options. Where Brady could have gone to
yeah,
any team.
for sure.
Yeah, and I read some good England there. I read something yesterday, I think it was, saying that Brady's actual first choice of places to go was the 49ers.
Yeah,
But the
and the
49ers
Niners evaluated him,
staff,
didn't they?
yeah, the 49ers staff didn't think there was much difference between him and Jimmy Garoppolo. Wowzers.
Yes, that is a mistake. Oh
Fools.
well, never mind. I'm glad he's not at the Niners because my life would be even harder. So
Yeah.
enjoy the books, Tom. Enjoy the books. Moving on, and this is one that we can talk about really, really quickly. As much as actually both these teams should get some airtime, but it was one of those games. Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field, so the Packers house. And as expected, the Packers dismantled the Steelers. They beat them 17-27, and it was a bit of a nothing game, really, was it? I didn't personally see anything of major talking points. Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger, both of them had just over 230 yards each, 232 for Ben, 248 for Rodgers, but they both look like two different quarterbacks. Like Aaron Rodgers looks amazing, and Big Ben looks like a tree that's about 350 million years old that's about to fall out of the ground due to rotten roots.
Yeah, he needs to just give it up. I was saying before, I think the Steelers are somehow, I don't know why, they're somehow edging their way into being one of my most hated teams. I just don't like watching them.
Yeah,
I don't like how smug Tomlin looks on the sideline all the time. I hate Chase Claypool
yeah.
and Juju.
Juju. Yes,
Juju, I hate more than anybody.
he needs a
Um,
slap every week. He needs a slap.
yeah, the only way I could hate him more is if he was a cowboy. That's the only way I could hate him more.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I just don't like the Steelers, and I don't think they looked like they look like they deserve the record they've got, and
yeah,
I'm happy
for sure.
about it.
Yeah, for sure. On the plus side, the Packers looked pretty decent, and unfortunately, Jair Alexander, their star corner, has gone down with a potentially pretty bad injury. Might be out and missing a few weeks, which really doesn't do them any favors. But other than that, everything else was ticking. What annoyed me a little bit, but I can't really be too annoyed at him because he's that good. But Aaron Rodgers, he threw 2 touchdowns to his best mate Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
That's like me and you going onto the pitch and you throwing me a couple of touchdowns. I'm old and decrepit, and so is Randall Cobb. But so, for some reason, I don't know whether it's because Rodgers is that good or Randall Cobb still got something, but it just pissed me off because I was just thinking, yeah, okay, you spat your dummies out at the preseason. They've given you your best mate to play with, as well as God knows what other weapons you've got, and you're just going to stand there and throw a couple of touchdowns. I don't know. Rodgers just pisses me off.
Yeah, he's just, I don't know, he's smug as well.
Yeah, super
Like,
smug.
I like Rodgers,
Mm.
but he's,
I
I don't
respect
know.
him. I don't like him.
Yeah, he's just, I like the fact that he's playing everyone, and I think it's pretty funny.
Mm.
He's a smug shit, isn't he? But at least he's consistent with it.
Yeah, it's
He's
true.
he's basically
Yeah,
bluffed his best mate onto a team, and he's just thrown him the ball,
yeah,
like Brady and Gronk.
yeah. It's true. I suppose if you've
But
got those
but Randall,
relationships,
I would say Gronk is still very much in his prime.
and Randall Cobb is not.
Randall Cobb is looks like
Well,
he looks like he could be the kit man who's thought, fuck it, I'll give this a go, see if anyone notices. But
yeah,
that's the difference between having an average quarterback and a good one. A
yeah.
good one can make an average quarterback. A good quarterback can make an average receiver look good.
Definitely. And I'm sure that they looked good when they were kissing each other in the evening as well. So
Yeah.
enjoy that, Rodgers and Cobb. Moving on to a game that was a bit of a blowout, probably mainly due to a bit of an injury. But the Ravens, so the Baltimore Ravens, played the Denver Broncos. This one finished Ravens 23, Broncos 7. There really wasn't much to talk about in this one. Lamar Jackson had 316 passing yards and 1 touchdown, one big touchdown to Marquise Hollywood Brown. And that was pretty much the only exciting play of the game in my eyes. It was, other than that, a pretty boring affair.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos finally play a good team and lose, so they've lost their winning or their unbeaten season.
Hmm.
And I think the only thing worth talking about is the fact that the Ravens continued their NFL or got the NFL record for um, most games rushing over 100 yards, and they did it on the
Most consecutive games, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, they did it on the final play of the game. Rushed for like Lamar Jackson rushed for 4 yards. I think Vic Fangio, the coach of the Broncos, didn't like it, but
Suck
the
it up, mate.
yeah, I mean, but they were down 16 points trying to throw a touchdown in the last 10 seconds or whatever it was. So, there's I think he was moaning about the Ravens risking player safety, and then John Harbaugh was like, "Well, actually, pal, there's not a 16-point touchdown, so why are you trying to throw a touchdown in the last minute of a game when you're
Yeah.
getting blown out?" So I think they had a bit of tit for tat, which I like to see. Should just
Yeah, it's
squared
good.
it, should just sorted out in the middle of the pitch after the games. Had a bit of a rumble.
Fisticuffs.
Yeah, some
Put them up.
yeah, handbags at dawn.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, if that record's there 4 yards, you may as well go for it, hadn't you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Um, okay. That takes us on to another game that we're not going to talk about, and that is the Washington football team playing the Atlanta Falcons. That one finished with Washington actually beating the Falcons. They beat them 34-30. That takes the football team to 2-2. The Falcons slipped to 1-3. There was a lot of points in the game, so 64 points between the two teams. There was a bit of excitement. I think two of the main things to take away from the game, really, from my point of view, were Terry McLaurin is a hell of a receiver.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
one thing to take away. I mean, I knew he was good, but he just seems to keep getting better. He had 123 yards and 2 touchdowns, and some of his catches weren't easy. So I think he's putting that team on his back a little bit at the moment.
He's pretty much the only receiver, isn't he, of note?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so
And then the other one is that, and you're not going to like this too much, Dave, because he was on your bench in fantasy, but it turns out that Cordarrelle Patterson is a Swiss Army knife that apparently works for the first time in 5 years.
yeah,
It's
I
looking good.
mean, he can run again. Is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? Nobody knew, and what we know now is he's both.
And he's a kick returner.
Yeah, yeah,
So he can do everything. I mean,
yeah.
I remember when the Vikings drafted him way back and he came out of college, he was a bit of a prospect. It was like, this guy is going to be, he's going to be able to do it all, catch out the backfield, run out the backfield. And then he got to the Vikings and he returned a few kicks and to be honest, he is very good at doing that. But other than that, they couldn't get him playing in the normal, in the normal gameplay. And then he moved on and still couldn't get unlocked. And then it's maybe luck or maybe the Falcons have just found a way to scheme him open. But he looked amazing. He looked really good on that pitch. And I think when you've got a running back that can do all those things, if he is a running back, or if you've got a receiver that can do all those running back things, it does make it difficult and confusing for the defense. He scored a big one on a wheel route, which is a dangerous one for a running back because you're essentially turning into a receiver after lining up in the backfield, and he just caught it like it was nothing and slammed it in for a touchdown. So good on Cordarrelle.
Yeah, like it. And like I
Is he
say,
going in your team this week, or are you still
he's he's on my team.
he's on your team? Good stuff.
Yeah,
Right. Moving on to a game that we will talk about at least for just a little bit, and that was the LA Rams taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Actually, it was the Cardinals visiting the Rams' house. Whose house? And
Cardinals' house. That's whose
and
house is.
it was the Cardinals' house indeed.
Kyler's house.
Yeah, it was Kyler's house. And yeah, the Cardinals go to 4-0. The Rams lose, which I did bet on the Cardinals, but I did expect the Rams to win, and the Rams lost 37-20. It wasn't even really close.
No, he got blown out.
Yeah, talk us through that one, Dave.
Yeah, I mean McVay is like he's 40-0 or something when his team's leading at half time, but when his team's not leading at half time, his record is not great.
Hmm.
So they rely on that going in with the lead. Um, they couldn't match the firepower of the Cardinals. The Cardinals just they can they're so effective in the run game as well as I mean Connor like James Conner there he's a different bit of a different beast to what he has been before.
Yeah, he
Um,
had 2 touchdowns, and the problem with them is that Connor looks good at the goal line, but then you've got Chase Edmonds, who's their other running back, and he had 120 yards as well.
averaged 10 yards per carry,
That's nuts.
which is insanity.
Mm.
Kyler Murray, he's probably the front runner, would you say, for the MVP award at the minute? Who would you put ahead of him?
Fuck it. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. I don't like to say it, but if you're going to give anybody the MVP right now, if it was to stop today, he wins it hands down.
Yeah, the they've just got so many weapons. AJ Green's come alive there now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they're a very good team and they're an all-round team. The defense is good. They've got great safeties. They've got great linebackers. I think most people thought the Rams were going to win this game, considering the Rams had just beaten the Bucks. But the Cardinals, I think they're the only undefeated team now in football. They look good.
yeah.
They're looking great. I don't know who they're at this week. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, it was a statement game though. It was a statement game. I thought that if the Cardinals do beat the Rams, that is a that is a that is a progression for them because they often lose to the Rams, and the fact that they were able to beat the Rams with new Matty Stafford, who's come in all gleaming quarterback, not beaten yet, and then they beat them. I just think that just throws even more question into the NFC West. Is that I mean, those two are clearly the best two teams, but who is the best? I think it's difficult to say.
Yeah, well they play the 49ers this week, so that's another divisional game for them. So it's a tough um another tough game because all divisional games are tough and they're all 50-50. I don't think it matters who you're playing.
Yeah.
Um the 50-50 game. So it'd be interesting to see if the 49ers, which have had a dominant defense in the past, can slow down the Cardinals.
For sure. Okay, and on to the next one. We will talk about the Titans. So Tennessee taking on the New York Jets at MetLife at the Jets house. Going into that game, you'd have thought the Titans would steamroll, when in fact, Jets force overtime and then win and defeat the Titans for their first win of the season. Jets go to 1-3, which many other teams are currently in the NFL, and they don't look quite as bad on paper. And they beat the Titans 27-24 in what was a very poor game for the Titans. Hence that they got a slap on defense from me. There really wasn't too much to take away from that game, to be honest. Zach Wilson gets his first win as a rookie. He did throw for just under 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was about as much as it was worth talking about. Derrick Henry had a deathly quiet 157 yards and a touchdown, but I've never heard so little be said about a man who rushes for 150 yards.
No, if that's a career day for some people,
Yeah,
that's an average day.
yeah,
Derrick Henry walks on the field knowing he's getting 150 yards.
it's true. It's true.
And it don't matter who's playing. He's leading the league in rushing again. But yeah, the day was about the Jets. All the New York teams won. I think the first time in a while actually that the Jets and Giants have both gone to overtime and won. So
Right, nice. And we continue on. We continue on. We continue on to the Indianapolis Colts playing the Miami Dolphins. Colts go into the Dolphins and actually do what they needed to and win 27-17.
yeah, not much to say about it really, is there? It was
No,
neither of them
really.
are sexy teams. Carson Wentz finally gets moving a little bit, but it still doesn't look great. I think the listeners must know that we're not huge Carson Wentz fans now, but the Dolphins, that's why I say give Brissett a slap, because they don't look like they've got anything, and they've had more picks. I would love to see to look through who's had the most number one picks or most first round picks of the last 10 years. The Dolphins have got to be up there with teams that have had like off through trades and stuff like that. They've got the most first round picks, but
it's not doing them any favors, really, is it?
No, they don't look. And
no.
Yeah.
Their defense can come alive on its day, but it clearly didn't happen today. So the Colts walked away with a win. Only exciting thing to talk about in the game really is that Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Colts, I think has stamped his mark on being the number one running back in Indianapolis. He's had to beat out some tough competition with Naheem Hines and Marlon Mack. Hines, they still play in a rotational role, but Jonathan Taylor had 103 yards yesterday and a touchdown. Not yesterday, the other day, and a touchdown. So, yeah, I quite like the look of him. He's electric, and we had the opportunity to take him, and instead we took another duppy running back who is not even on our roster anymore, I don't think.
Seahawks doing the magic again.
That's it. Next game was the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. This one was closer than I expected it to be to start with, but in the end, the Chiefs dropped a 42 burger on the Eagles and won 42-30 at the Eagles' house. Patrick Mahomes threw for 300 touchdowns. 300 touchdowns.
Today? That is impressive. What's the final score?
That is a day. What would that be? I can't even work it out.
Lot.
Quick maths. No, he threw 5 touchdowns and nearly 300 yards. Jalen Hurts had nearly 400 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he was just hoping a prayer with that football for the majority of the game. Chiefs defense doesn't look great though. That's one thing I would say.
I'm just looking at this. They have conceded 30 plus points in every game apart from the first game where they conceded 29. So that is something to be worried about if you're a Chiefs fan or Seahawks fan, but you love the Chiefs as almost as much as you love the Seahawks. Their defense, it's shocking. It gives me slight hope knowing that we're playing them. But what I will say is, if they don't sort the defense out and their offense, Kelsey's getting older, Tyreek Hill will lose a step at some point. Um, you can't always you're not always going to have the offense that's humming to be able to put 40 points up when another team's putting 30 points up
Yeah.
on a team, because if you're conceding 30 points regularly, that's not a good sign at all.
No, it's really not. Like you say, at this point in time, the Chiefs can get away with conceding high points because they can score high points no matter who they play. But it didn't look good for me. They're coming off the back of a loss in their division, and yeah, I thought that their defense actually looked really poor, and not just, oh, that was not too bad. I was watching the Chiefs get run on and thrown on by a very, very poor Jalen Hurts, and I thought this is not good for the Chiefs. Luckily, on offense, they looked fantastic as they usually do, and they were back to the normal selves. But yeah, it was one of those games. Patrick Mahomes went off 42-30. Not more to be said. Do you want to talk about the Eagles anymore, Dave?
Absolutely not.
Good stuff. Last couple of games, and then we'll get on to ours, or say last couple. There's a few more. So real quick, we don't need to talk about this one at all. The Texans played the Bills at the Bills. They got blown out 0 big fat goose egg to a 40 burger, 40-0.
Dropping donuts.
Dropping donuts. On to the next game. The Lions played the Bears. I thought the Lions would win this one, but in the end, they just did a big old Lions in the middle of the field and lost 14-24.
Worst defense in football.
Worst defense.
Yeah, the Lions is.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, well, statistically it is, but yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, only thing to take away from this game really was that Justin Fields played his first game, and he looked okay. That's about it. Yeah.
He's been named as a starter now as well, so.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see a bit more of him down the stretch. But it's the right move, definitely. As much as he got terrorized in the previous game, he looked okay. They've got to play a playbook that suits him, right? They can't just have him dropping back. So they've got to utilize his legs, which they did a bit more in this game. So yeah, that was 14 Lions, 24 Bears. Bears go to 2-2 in the division. Lions still sit with a big fat 0 and 4 losses. Another game in the AFC powerhouse versus what could potentially be an NFC powerhouse, and I thought this would be one of the games of the week, but actually turned out to be a bit of a shitter, and that was the Cleveland Browns playing the Minnesota Vikings. This one finished 14 to the Browns, that's 14, and 7, that's 7 to the Vikings. Vikings scored 7 points in the opening quarter and not a penny more all the way through the game.
Yeah, Viking Kirk Cousins turned back into Kirk Cousins, didn't
he? Yeah, I think he transformed out of being Aaron Brady into Turdy Cousins.
Yeah, Derek Cousins. Derek Carr came back down to earth as well.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield was awful. If they didn't have such a good running game and such a good defense, that game could have just finished 7-7. It was awful. But Baker was not good. And it's worrying because he's not been good for the last 2 weeks. He was just inaccurate, like
missing loads of passes,
wildly missing them as well. Not even just off them. They were stinkers.
It's hard to overthrow Odell Beckham, isn't it? I mean, he'll catch it.
Yeah.
He'll catch almost anything, but he still managed to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a stinker, and I was a bit disappointed, but it means we don't have to talk about it too much. So on we go. The Panthers. So the Panthers played the Cowboys. Panthers newly acquired superstar cornerback yet to play for them, but they played the Cowboys, and this finished 28 to the Panthers, 36 to the Cowboys. Both go 3-1 in their divisions. I have to say it, even though it pains me to say it, the Cowboys look. I don't like saying it. The Cowboys look good.
The Cowboys' offense was very good, and the issue is the defense is starting to look good as well. Yeah, I can't stand them. I think that I don't know. What do you even say? They've got.
I can't talk about Dak Prescott in a positive manner. I just can't fucking bring myself to do it.
Nah, I can't do it. Can't do it.
He had 4 touchdowns and 188 yards. Now do one.
Yeah. Twat.
End of. Panthers. Panthers did well to kind of hang in the mix for a while, I suppose, is one of the things. DJ Moore is good. DJ Moore is a great receiver. Yeah. But DJ Moore, not Dak Prescott. So DJ Moore's a great receiver. Sam Darnold had 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a couple as well. He still looked good. So fair dinkums to Darnold for looking like he's still got, a bit of power against the Cowboys, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. And even Zeke had a good day. And yeah, you can't be having Dak and Zeke having good days. That's not fair.
No, we just don't talk about them.
On to the Raiders. The unbeaten Raiders, who are now beaten, playing the Los Angeles Chargers. So this one was Chargers playing at home at SoFi Stadium. The visiting Raiders coming in with swagger, coming in with a bit of panache, and get handed a 28-14 loss, which I love to see because Derek Carr is bang average. And it was shown in this game today. And Justin Herbert had 3 touchdowns, 222 yards. Austin Eckler, 120 on the ground. Things we love to see.
Yeah. I'm glad that the Raiders lost because I don't hate them, but I don't. Derek Carr's he's average. He has this part. He does it every season. He'll have a couple of games where people think he's amazing. He'll beat the Chiefs, and then they'll get blown out by the Jets.
Yeah.
So it's the way it's a season event. It's over. We've had it. They've had 3 games.
Yeah.
But I think he's still leading the league in yards though, passing yards.
He is, yeah. Even though he only had 198, which wasn't fantastic, but he is still leading the league, which that'll get broken soon. He's not going to keep that pace up, is he?
I would have thought so.
I doubt it anyway, unless they're trailing so badly that he's got to sling it. But yeah, that game was relatively uneventful. Jared Cook, their veteran tight end, caught a hell of a pass at the back of the end zone, which I thought was really tasty from Justin Herbert. Herbert just continues to look like he's every little bit of their next 12 years, isn't he?
Oh yeah, Herbert's the one. He's
class.
He's their starting quarterback. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So they've done quite well drafting him because they've gone from Philip Rivers. And they had good spells under Philip Rivers, and then they never won a Super Bowl. But the Chargers, they look all right, Herbert's growing on me.
Yeah, I quite like him as well. I do quite like him. Right, and then that takes us to the final two games. So, do you want this one, Dave, or shall I go first? Who should we go with?
No, I'll go with the Giants.
Okay,
get it in. So yeah, the Giants beat the Saints.
New Orleans.
Right. Series going off on my watch. Yeah, so we beat the Saints, and nobody was expecting us to win this game. I don't think, least of all me. And we pulled it out of the bag in overtime. Daniel Jones won the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, which I'm very happy about.
I knew you'd lead with that one.
Second time he's done that.
Danny Dimes, NFC Player of the Week.
Absolute savage. Threw for 400 yards, threw the most yards this week for a quarterback. Absolutely loving life.
Any more stats? Did he have the longest hair growth this week as well, Dave, on the top of his head? Was that a thing as well?
No, he threw his first pick though. For his first interception, a Hail Mary, which I don't count.
It's a garbage pick, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they looked all right. They looked good. We were getting essentially we weren't getting blown out, but we were getting handily beaten. I was a little bit content that it was just that I wasn't content, but I knew we were gonna, or thought we were gonna lose. Thought that's where it was heading. So I started to pay more attention to the red zone in the game, and then suddenly Saquon Barkley comes up with a touchdown. Daniel Jones runs it in for the 2-point conversion, and then we're back in. Graham Gano hits a field goal to take us to overtime. Then we get the Jabril Peppers coin toss, which a few people might have seen on Instagram. Was getting a bit excited about that. Daniel Jones takes it down the field. Saquon runs it in. Saquon had a touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. He looked good. You can't really take the rushing stats because you don't run on the Saints. There's a few teams in the league you don't run on.
Yeah, you just don't.
The Saints are one of them. So they used him as what I thought they would start to use him as, which is, and where he's better, which is getting the ball in a bit of open space, making people miss, and then doing bits. I think what I'll say is that Sterling Shepard was out. Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton were both out, and they've played with Daniel Jones for 3 years. So he's got a good rapport with them. But who he's not got a good rapport with is, well, not rapport, but he's not got much chemistry with Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney,
John Ross,
and John Ross, who was this was his first game back after being injured with pulling his hamstring or whatever he's done. So by the two players being out, it's gave Daniel Jones time now to throw to get used to Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney and give them a bit of action. Kenny Golladay played amazing. He averaged 19 yards a catch, 116 yards. Kadarius Toney 78 yards. John Ross 77 with a touchdown. I just think that Kadarius Toney showed a little bit of the reason why he was a first round pick. Gets the ball open, converted on a 3rd and 19, which was essentially a sort of wide receiver screen. Made about 7 people miss, and then got it to the marker to get us back on first down or continue moving the chains. And Kelly Golladay was just he was just a force, caught everything. He looked really good. I think, I don't know, but the defense again showed signs that it's not playing to the standard it should do. It's the best it's looked, to be fair, in the last few games, but it just shows that if we'd have converted on some of them other games, not jumped offside to allow the Washington football team to get the win on us, that we could be 3-1.
Yeah, could be very different position.
The small margins, which with the penalties that have cost us.
Yeah.
And
it's a long season, isn't it? It's a long season, that's the thing. So if you start pulling it together now, you got every chance of making the playoffs in that division. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, to me it just looked like maybe because Daniel Jones didn't have his every weekers, they were off injured. He was having to push the ball in different directions, and it actually benefited the team because he found so many different receivers, with Barkley also receiving out the back, and he still put 50 yards on the ground and a touchdown, which, like you said, against the Saints, that's not an easy thing to do. You just don't run on the Saints. They just stop you. So I think that seeing Barkley come back is amazing. He looks like he's getting that juice back in those massive tree trunks of his, and if he can continue to progress, yeah, you're flying. And like I said, I think you really could take that division by a bit of a storm as long as you just tighten those things up. There's a couple of areas in that game, Taysom Hill making your defense look like a bunch of flumps stood on their head. That's not what you want to see. But overall, you still did manage to stop them enough to get a win. So yeah, positives to come out of that game for the Giants, I think. And like I said, the listeners are hearing Happy Dave for a week.
Yeah, and then
yeah,
we'll see what we do against the Cowboys. But divisional games,
it's a tough one. And then finally, what did that game finish, Dave? What was the score? 27 to the Giants, 21 to the Saints with a walk-off touchdown in overtime. So 27-21, New York Football Giants. And then the last game that we'll talk about is NFC West divisional clash between the Seattle Seahawks playing the San Francisco 49ers. we played the Niners at their house at Levi Stadium, and Seahawks walked away with I'm going to call it a big win in the division, 28-21. If I may, this was a strange game. We won by 7 points, but at any given time we could have looked like we might win by 14. We could have looked like we might lose and not score a point. It was very strange. So they shut us out. We had -7 yards on the opening 6 drives that we had. So the Seahawks started -7 yards. I was thinking, oh God, I did a segment on them last week about the Bears having only 47 yards of offense, and the Seahawks are going to come in with minus, and it just didn't look good. It looked like the Niners had every answer for our running game and for the Seahawks, but we persevered, and our offense started to clicking before halftime. We managed to put some touchdowns on the board, and then the game kind of swung. And as soon as it started to swing in our favour, Russell Wilson was cooking a little bit. He only had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he, that's 150 yards in one half basically, because the first half we were shut out. So once he found his rhythm, he looked pretty good. Alex Collins, if anybody knows who he is, he was on the Seahawks and then he went to play for a number of different teams, Ravens being one of them. Now he's back at the Hawks as a running back, and he looked really, really nice, like really, really good. He's got a bit of juice in his step. He's the second option to Chris Carson, but he had 44 yards and a touchdown, and a very good touchdown actually as well, where he basically made the entire 49ers defense miss before running it into the end zone. DK Metcalf had 65 and a touchdown. So we did the right things, but our defense still looks sloppy, and that's not a surprise. So realistically, I'm coming out of that game thinking we got the win, which is what we needed. We managed to stop the Niners when we needed to. They got a garbage touchdown at the end of the game, which makes it look closer than it was. Russell Wilson put himself on the line a little bit, took himself in for a rushing touchdown as well. He's in that conversation for best performing quarterback of the year so far, but he's not having it consistent. He's either playing an amazing first or second half and not tying it all together. So if we can get 3 or 4 quarters of Russell Wilson from what we've been seeing in the 1 or 2 or 3 that he's been playing very well in, then we'll be a hard team to stop. The problem is that we are very, very, very open on defense, like a sieve. And if you want to run on us, you can. And if you want to pass on us, you absolutely can. So, yeah, I don't know what this solution is, because we're past the time for trades and we're past the time for signing anybody in free agency that's out there now. So, Stefan Gilmore would have been a lovely scenario. But we won the game, and it's a divisional game. And like you say, those are the most important games to win.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And the fact that we won it makes me happy. And we're sat with 2 happy chappies.
Yeah,
On
I think they're so important because they're more important in our divisions than they are in some of the others, because other divisions you have people who run away with it.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFC East, you've got 4 teams. I'm going to include the Cowboys in this, that could all finish with losing records. So your divisional games are vital for sorting that out, because we could all be, sat on the same sort of, I don't know, 8 and 9 record at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And it's the same with yours. They could all be sat on like 10, 11, 12 wins, and they just sort out that. So it's important to win them divisional games, because that just gives you the top trump when it comes to playoff seeding at the end. But I was just looking at the team stats. If you looked at the teams, this is why I can't just look at stats and not look at the score lines and stuff, but they had nearly double the yards that the Seahawks had. They had 457 total yards to 234, which I think is crazy. I mean, I do think that it benefited you that Jimmy Garoppolo went out, because although Trey Lance come in, he's thrown 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. he was 9 of 18. He's 50% passing. You you wouldn't have got that with Garoppolo. He's a bit more effective and efficient. He ain't gonna push the ball down the field more, but
He's going
what
to
you do,
game manage.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course he is. When you push the ball down the field, yeah, it's great. You're gonna get a 50, 60 yard touchdown, but all you're doing is you're taking very little time off the clock and giving them the ball back. And you can't give Russ the ball back because he'll punish you. He's one of those great quarterbacks that will punish you with the ball. So yeah, I mean a win's a win. You're set at 2-2. They're set at 2-2. And then you got one at 4-0 and one at 3-1. So
Yeah. It's open, and we play the
yeah.
Rams this week, so big games are coming. Right, we're gonna finish that on the clock segment, and we're gonna rattle through one more segment before we look at the Sky Sports game, and then we head off for the evening. This segment that we're going to talk about is going to be a nice snappy one, and it's called Things You Love to See. So when we were watching football over the weekend, I just found myself sat with Dave and a couple mates and watching football on the red zone and just saying, oh, that is something that you just love to see. So I want to talk about things you love to see. We're in week 4 of the NFL, Dave. So I want 4 things that you love to see, or maybe actually we'll mix it. We'll go alternatively. I've got 4, you go 4.
Okay.
You give me the first thing that you love to see in week 4.
Giants win. What more can I say? Love to see. We don't get many of them. Like
Yeah.
we average 5 or 6 wins a season. We could easily, looking at the game that we had ahead of us, we could have easily gone. The Saints could have easily beaten us. They're a very good team. They're a playoff contender for sure. So yeah, they won the division. They won their division last year. So we got the win. So yeah, I love to see that.
Things you love to see: a Giants win.
Yeah.
Giants win. Giants win.
What do you
Um,
love to see?
the the thing that I love to see is the Raiders being made to not just look average, but to be proven to be average. That's the thing. I feel like they were gaining some traction at the start of the season because they obviously went with a number of wins and no losses, but they're not good. They are average. Derek Carr is average. They've got a number of players that are no better than average, and I just liked watching the Chargers steamroll them and make them look exactly like they should do, which is the third best team in their division, basically, and that was kind of put to them in that game. So I love to see that. I don't like Derek Carr very much, and I do really like Justin Herbert because he's an exciting new prospect. So things I love to see: the Raiders being shite.
Happy days. What I love to see is the Patriots losing and Tom Brady going back to beat the Patriots, and set the passing record. I think it was great to see it.
Yeah.
He deserves it. He's the GOAT.
Mhm.
7 Super Bowls. I think, and Belichick crying on the sideline, and his weird ass son licking his lips on every play. What the
What's
fuck is
that
that
all
about?
about?
So
Yeah, he looked mental.
that's what I love to see.
Cool. Things you love to see. What I love to see is Urban Meyer unraveling, basically. Love to see Urban Meyer unraveling. So he starts 0-4, and one of his excuses is, "I didn't know the NFL was going to be this difficult." Basically, I'm not quoting him verbatim, but he basically said, "Oh, playing in the NFL was basically like playing Alabama every week." That's him basically saying that he thought coming to the NFL was going to be like playing some piss poor college teams. Well, no, mate, you're in the NFL. Even the garbage teams are full of players that would be superstars in college. So you've messed up there. The next is that he may be fired at any point because of his misconduct, and he was getting grinded on in a bar uh, by some little hottie, and
Yeah,
got absolutely caught red-handed or ass-handed, and yeah, he just seems to be unraveling, and he yeah he's 0-4. And I don't think he's quite cut out for the NFL. So I love to see that because the Jags will do that to you.
yeah. And staying with the Jags, things I love to see because I'm a bit of a Lawrence fan. Is Trevor Lawrence having his first good game?
Okay.
Pretty much a mistake-free game for me. It wasn't a masterful performance. He's not come in the league and he's not lining it up like Baker lit it up, like Joe Burrow lit it up, like Justin Herbert lit it up.
Hmm.
But I do think that they all went to better situations than what he's got. Like I say, I think he's got a coach that might not actually be able to coach at this level.
Hmm.
What did he expect? Did he expect to come into the league and just play load of shitters every week and then occasionally play a good team?
Mm.
Negative. All the teams are amazing. They've all got they've all got some form of good players, and
Hmm.
I think that even though they lost, Trevor Lawrence did look like he can put he's got a special arm. He can take it off when he needs to. He can finesse the ball. He can
Hmm.
move with his legs. And yeah, he needs a haircut. He does look like a little girl, but I think he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Speaking of which, things I love to see is he might look like a little girl, and this guy might look like a little boy, but Zach Wilson showing promise, basically. Zach Wilson showing promise is something that I love to see because I was kind of high on him when he came out of the draft. I just liked the way that he played, and I just liked how he looked a little bit. Throwing the ball, he looks like he's got power in those tiny arms, and he got his first win this week, and he actually was able to switch it on at some point. Nearly 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He threw another pick, so he's still on course for throwing more picks than anybody ever. But give credit to the little man. He made some throws that are not easy throws. As much as they might look like it, they were absolute dope on a rope.
Yeah, which is good. And I think he's not beat a shitter. He's beat a very good team, a
Hmm.
team that's probably going to win that division.
Yeah,
And he's 100% going to the playoffs. he he's beat them, and
yeah,
you can't take that away from him. But credit where it's due. I'm not massively high on him, but he's done what he had to do.
yeah,
Um, and the final thing that I love to see, Saquon back, baby.
yeah, baby. Go
You
seek
know,
it. Go seek it. Go
yeah,
seek
he
it.
looks like he's starting to gain a bit more confidence with his running running sort of like through the offensive line. The offensive line played great this week. Kept Daniel Jones clean and allowed Saquon enough gap to get through and get the winning touchdown. But more his catch at the backfield, blowing past Marshawn Lattimore, then duked the safety out of his boots.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, he looked at the touchdown. The touchdown catch was nice. It was something.
Yeah.
It was very Saquonish. He's just he's back.
Yeah, no, and he did look it as well. It's something that I love to see as well. Like for sure, Saquon actually playing up to his potential, and I actually don't think he's anywhere near his potential yet either. I still think he's probably operating at like 80 to 85% at the moment, and then when he's back to 100, it's just nice to see. The guy is electric. So good for you to get him back. Good for the Giants, and good for the league to have an elite superstar running back in action, because it's not nice to see him go out. So go on, Saquon, earn me more fantasy points, you beast.
Yeah,
And the last thing that I love to see is watching Patrick Mahomes throw 5 touchdowns and lead the league in touchdowns. As much as I'd love it to be Russell Wilson, I'm not defecting. I'm just saying that I do have a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes, and he kind of did everything in that game. Uh, this week. He threw a weird underarm shovel pass. He threw a deep bomb. He threw a sidearm slant. He threw a wheel route. He was running all over the place. Yeah, I mean, he was only playing against the Eagles, so you can't get too excited. But the Chiefs do it almost against everyone, and I just like to see entertaining football, and that is genuinely why I like the Chiefs. Why I like to watch the Chiefs is because you get in an offensive just performance pretty much every week, and whenever the ball's in Mahomes' hands, you think, oh, this could be a touchdown, and most of the time it turns out to be so. So, yeah, I enjoyed just watching him drop those touchdowns in, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And you can't refute me, Dave, because this was against the Eagles. So you must have loved to see that a little bit.
I do love to see the Eagles lose, no matter who it is. Um, but yeah, no, Mahomes, he's a gift. He's got the best arm in the league. He can make every single pass. Um, and he can move. He duck walks a little bit, like he's a little bit of a weirdo. But and
Yeah, just walk weird.
his brother's the biggest weirdo on earth.
His brother, I almost thought about slapping his brother last week because his
Yeah,
brother is, yeah, no. Jackson Mahomes, you need to stop going to football games and dancing like a pillock.
yeah, he's an absolute jack creature. He is, but no,
But yeah,
like yeah, to put in, beating the Eagles, it does make me like Mahomes.
it's things you love to
Point,
see, Dave. It's things you
yeah,
love to see.
0.3% more. So I'm about a 2%er on Mahomes now. So
Okay. All right, cool. Well, that was things you love to see. And we move into our final segment, which is the games that are being played on Sky Sports. Just going to give you a brief thing to look out for in each one of these games. So the games being played in the UK on Sky Sports. If you do have Sky Sports and fancy a watch and you don't usually watch NFL, then look at some of these games. The first one being played on Thursday night is the Los Angeles Rams playing the Seattle Seahawks. It's a good game. It's a big game. It's a divisional game. It's being played in Seattle, which gives me the only bit of hope that I would have going into the game that we could win it. Do I think that we're going to? Yeah. Seahawks, Seahawks. I think we're going to win the game. I think we're going to blow the Rams out. I don't think they're going to put a point on us. Defense is going to come up strong. 12s are going to be blaring in the stadium. It's going to be a game to watch.
I think you are delusional. Do I think you can win the game? Of course, you could win it. Do I think you're going to be favourites? Absolutely not. I think that losing to the Cardinals is going to hurt hurt the Rams. It's going to hurt McVay, and I think they're going to want to come out and make a statement. And I think the fact that your defense can be exposed.
Our defense is not good. Plain and
No,
simple.
yeah, you've not got the corners or the coverage safeties. I think that you're going to need. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think I would be if I was going to bet on them on that particular game. I think I'm going to stay away from it. You should always stay away from divisional games. I would probably be hedging my bets on the Rams. Unfortunately for you,
Fair play. I'm just trying to be. I'm trying to be overconfident.
you've got to be optimistic.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's the first game, and then the games of the actual Sunday night week are the Jets are actually playing the Atlanta Falcons in London. So they're flying over, or they may have already flown over now. I'd imagine they have, and they're playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So Tottenham's ground, it actually has an NFL pitch underneath the football pitch, which the soccer pitch, should I say, the soccer pitch opens up and the NFL pitch comes up from underneath, and that's going to be a nice affair, I think, just for the London fans to be able to get behind. It's an absolute tanker of a game. It's not going to be a good football game to watch, but if you go into the game, enjoy it. It's got
Yeah,
Europe's longest bar in that stadium as well, so you can go and have a few beers. But things to look out for. Exciting new quarterback that's just won his first game playing. A team that is not good on defense. So I'm hoping there could be some points.
yeah, I think so. I think Matt Ryan also threw 4 touchdowns in their game in their loss to the Washington football team. So he's capable of turning it on. It should be a good show, and I mean, tickets are available. Not that
Yeah.
I'm getting any commission from it, but if you are listening and you do fancy going to watch a game, 60 quid, you'll get some decent end zone seats. Yeah, and why not, eh?
What a bargain! What a bargain!
It probably is
Um,
compared to like Premier League football. I don't
yeah,
know what them tickets go for, but I imagine they're more than that.
I'd imagine so for a much more boring game as well. Um, Next game being played is potentially the game of the week, and that is the Buffalo Bills playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So that one is that's potentially an AFC Championship game. That's a big game for both teams. Chiefs need a win to try and rise back to the top of their division. Bills want to win to sustain, the top level of theirs. It's just a good game. You're going to get an absolute fiery offense on both sides of the ball, and unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately like I'm a Chiefs fan, but I want the Chiefs to win, but I don't think they will. I think the Bills' defense is playing lights out at the moment, and the Chiefs' defense looks like they're in real trouble. So if you pitch both offenses against each other, Chiefs comes out just above. If you pitch defenses against each other, I think the Bills comes out way above. And so in that vein and scenario, if I was a betting man, and I will be betting, I'll be betting on the Bills to win this one.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute barn burner in it, that game. Josh Allen's, like we said last week, he's regained his form. He's had 2 very good weeks now, and he's got potential to light up defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Eagles are putting 30 points on you, the Bills are putting 30 points on you,
100.
and then some.
Yeah, for sure. And then the final 2 games, don't really need to talk about them too much. They're not fantastic games, but the Indianapolis Colts are playing the Baltimore Ravens. That will just be one of those games where the Ravens end up comfortably beating the Colts, and the Bucs are playing the Eagles. That'll be one of those games where the Eagles get the back doors blown off again, which will make Dave even happier.
Yeah, it will.
And that's all the games on Sky Sports. So that brings us to the end of our 5th podcast in the End Zone UK. So thanks for listening. Please make sure that you share this podcast with whoever or whomever you feel would want to take a listen. Any new football fanatics or enthusiasts that are taking to the game, share it to them. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Take a look at our Instagram page in the End Zone UK. Give us a follow. Give us a shout out. That'd be fantastic. And a big shout out to our producer that's been working on this podcast with us for the past 5 weeks. Big shout out to Chris K1. Many thanks for all the effort that you're putting in on this podcast and making me and Dave sound like that we actually know what we're talking about. So yeah, cheers.
And I think also just on the YouTube thing, we're going to be putting up a YouTube video this week, just breaking down some of the basics of the NFL for people who may be listening who don't understand a few of the things. We're going to push out a load of videos on there.
Take a look, enjoy them, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.
Peace.